You know who would hold the meeting?
Who?
Russell Wilson.
Hey, he played well.
Russ
he played
back.
well. Started shaky, but I mean, what do you expect from a guy who had, who's essentially taken a year off from football?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and especially going into that situation, the expectation and the pressure is at its highest because you bench somebody like Justin Fields, who was 4-2. So a lot of that moment last night was riding on how Russell Wilson's going to do. Like, did he look clean and look great and the future is going to be bright for Pittsburgh? Like, no, you can't say that, but also I don't think you can expect him not to look a little rusty coming out there. But I do think moving the ball the way that defense plays, man, obviously you can lean on that defense to win. It's like one of the highest, special teams, that massive field goal block. Yeah, guys just being excited. Like, it is one of the highest paid defenses in the league. They do play like it. Like, Russell he's somebody who, when you're watching him play that game, he takes deep shots. He gives receivers the opportunity to make plays. Pickens seems like he's like in it now because he knows he's getting the ball his way.
Wild personality, that Pickens.
Wild personality.
Wild.
Seeing him and Sauce Gardner go at it was so much fun to watch because both elite guys within their craft. And it does seem like Russ is somebody who can get in there, who's going to take deep shots, who is willing to throw the ball around, but you can't expect him to look completely clean going into that first game based on him taking a year off and also knowing the pressure was at its absolute highest on him going into that game.
Yeah, and being a Steelers fan, like we obviously talked about the not having fun as a Titans fan, Steelers, man, Mike Tomlin is the king of culture. He's the king of sustaining and keeping culture alive in a building. And having a guy like Russ, who, if you're a Steelers fan right now listening to this podcast, you know that's not the long-term answer for your team. But for them to put him in there and have the success they did in all three phases, that's the kind of shit that makes Mike Tomlin who he is.
Right, because it was a risk. Like, if he doesn't play well and they lose that game, like, everybody's calling for Justin Fields to get back. Like, you're just in a tough spot.
You're 15-15, and then all of a sudden they crushed the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the
First
kind of
couple series, they were kind of like, the fans were kind of like, did he make the wrong decision?
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple plays where
You heard
Russ
some
should've
boos.
ran.
Yeah, you heard some boos. Yeah, to where Justin would probably get you out of that situation because they both kind of do some similar things, but Justin's better at running. Yeah.
But then it sounded like they just quickly were like, all right, let Russ cook.
Mhm.
let Russ
Let
cook.
him cook. Bring back the Subway sandwich.
Arthur Smith,
I think
man.
with their culture too, when they asked Justin Fields during the week, he's like, if I played good enough, I would be starting. I haven't played good enough.
I love the way Justin Fields
Yeah.
handled that interview because he's been on, I want to say when he was on the Bears, he said something that seemed like he was kind of passing blame, but immediately he was trying to say like he wasn't trying to do that. And it's not, from what I've heard too, Justin Fields is one of those, he's got a very sturdy mentality. He's somebody who's all in. He's for the boys. And to your point, JP, like the way he was like, look, if I was a clear-cut starter, I would be the guy, but I don't feel like I've played well enough to be that guy. Like I love the way he handled that interview. And
That
those
is
are the guys
awesome.
you need, and you hope his head doesn't go into the tank mentally just because, hey, bro, it's a long season. We're going to need you again at some point, and
Right.
you never know how it's going to shake. Russ could have an off game. Russ could get hurt. Like, anything can happen to where if it does shake your way, you're honestly in a little bit of a win-win situation because you are proven to be 4-2. You're taking all the accountability your way. Like, look, I didn't play well enough. And all you got to do now is just be as good of a glue locker room guy as you can be, because if it does shake and it comes back your way, it's ultimately going to work out for you in the end. And you do have film out there of you being a 4-2 quarterback and leading the Steelers before Russ came in.
Dude, that is a great point. When you were put on the bench to become a glue guy, to sit in the locker room and just be as positive vibes as you can, because the relationships that you're continuing to build, because when your name is eventually called again, people are going to want your success and they're going to be rooting for you in your own team.
Right.
But if you become one of those guys that are bitching and complaining, like, hey, I would have made that throw instead of Russ. Oh, I
Right.
would have been able to get us out of
Which
situation.
and again, in his shoes, those things could be justified if he was kind of being that guy, like bitter and upset about the move
Right.
and everything else. Like, he could easily take that easy way out. But you're right. Like, when the moment does come for him to go back in, people are going to remember how you handled yourself. You're obviously remembering how you handled yourself. You're prepared for this next opportunity, and you're not like, I don't know. I love it. I love everything Justin was about last week.
It's the full, whatever happens in your life is your fault.
Yes.
If you're successful, it's your fault. If you do bad, it's your fault. And
Yes.
he seems like he has the right answer to it.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
fucking.
is he somebody another team would want to maybe go get in the trade?
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
guys who are hurting at quarterback who might need a spark that could be.
I don't think the Steelers are walking away from him though.
No,
They're not.
right.
They're not.
He's
I
a
don't
tough
think they're
one
trading
to-
him.
You'd have to give a lot.
You probably would, and yeah, I just don't see. But my thought is, if he was going to go into free agency next year or something like that, like there's going to be plenty of teams calling to get a guy like that, especially when you're able to see those kinds of press conferences.
Right.
I love the quote of like, "It's your fault whether successful or you're a failure." Like that's awesome.
and to like it's valuable to have a quality backup quarterback. Like that ain't you're not just because you have a backup quarterback who can play. It's not like you're not immediately looking to deal him. Like it's positive. It's a good thing to have a guy like that on your roster.
Marcus Mariota.
But dude, I love the way he handled all of last week. Truly a beast. Because again, like I can think back on a situation where I was very bitter that I didn't get the opportunity to play at one point in my career in Washington. I want to say it might have been like it was like in my last year before I came to Tennessee. And I was mad and upset. Like the starter, I was the backup middle linebacker. The starter went out and got a shoulder surgery. I thought I was going to be the guy the next week going in, and they split our reps. And my reps was on base. His reps were on nickel. And in this league now, you play more being a nickel linebacker than you do in base. Like your plays are few and far in between. And we had Dallas coming in. And I was legitimately pissed off and very bitter and just being a bitch about the entire thing for a moment. And you sit there and you realize, like, no matter what, I have to be ready for every snap that I get on base, whether it's 2 snaps, whether it's 8 snaps, whether it's 10 snaps, because no matter what, when I go out there, if I don't play well, I'm just proving them right. I'm proving everybody else right in the entire situation. But if I just stick to whatever my role is, play well, like at least I know I poured everything into it. And I know I'm not just taking the easy way out of just bitching and complaining. Because again, you go out and you play poorly. And I'm just, if my mentality is like, yeah, well, I didn't get the opportunity. I didn't get a shot. Well, no matter what, you had some snaps to go out there and play. Like, did you play well or not? If you didn't and you're bitching about it, you're just proving everybody else that like, hey, we made the right call. Like your mentality and everything else isn't built to handle something like that. So it is. That's why I love the way Justin has handled all that stuff. Because again, the team's going to need him at some point this season.
Yeah, that's a common theme in every level of sports, high school, college, or NFL. You always find the guys that want to bitch and complain that are not playing. And then 9 times out of 10, when they get that opportunity, they go in and they shit the bed. Even as a guy that would listen to them bitch and complain, you think to yourself, well, there's your answer right there. But then they want to come back and give you the same fucking reason why the shit didn't work out for him.
Right.
Which is fucking
It's
wild.
like if I'm bitching to you and you're thinking, yeah, you should be the guy out there.
I would
you see me go
100%
out there
think that.
and you see me go out there and play poorly. It's like, hey, man, like even the ops you are getting, you're
Yeah.
not taking advantage of them.
Yeah, but like, and it's take it a step further. Those guys that bitch and complain about not playing, once they do go play and they don't have the success, their first reaction is to go and bitch and complain
Still
to the
point the
people,
finger that the
being like, yo, if
opportunity
he would
wasn't-
have had X,
Yeah.
Y, and Z, I would have made that play. It's like, obviously, you're your own problem.
Yeah.
You are your
It's
issue.
the loser fucking mentality.
Loser
Dwelling in
fucking
excuses over what JB's saying, everything's your fault, accountability and having optimism, whatever your role is, you want to do it to the best of your ability.